Good morning. This is World News and World Talks here on TVP World. I'm Anna Kalczyńska. Could Europe become the new global hub for scientific research and innovation? In a bold and strategic move, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and French President Emmanuel Macron met in Paris' Sorbonne to unveil a 500 million euros initiative aiming to attract foreign researchers, scholars and innovators, mainly from the US. With the new US administration's policy, the scientific academia may be disillusioned by the growing politicization and budgetary pressures on academic institutions. So how attractive can the European safe haven for science prove? I'm joined now by Pascal Drouhaud, Associate Researcher, Institut Choiseul, to explore what this initiative means for global science, Europe's future and the transatlantic relations. Good morning, sir. Thank you for joining TVP World.
Anna.
So Choose Europe for Science, that's the title of this ambitious program to attract foreign researchers to help support the best and the brightest researchers and scientists from Europe and all around the world. So is it a good move, and what are the chances it will work?
Well, definitely this meeting yesterday in Paris, as you said, in La Sorbonne, the university, mythic university, with the president of the Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, and Emmanuel Macron, had an ambition. You used the very correct word, to make Europe and France a hub, a point of attractivity for the scientific, for the researcher. And so they were calling them from all around the world, but of course focused on the USA, to come to work in Europe, and for the French president in France. That's the ambition, that's the vision, to make Europe a hub of attractivity again, and we all hope that it is not an illusion.
Of course. But you mentioned that it's an opportunity, it's an ambition. How do the working conditions and funding opportunities for researchers in Europe are compared to the ones in the US? How competitive can Europe be?
Well, as Emmanuel Macron said, he said some things, but he said research is a priority, innovation a culture, and science an horizon without limit. So that's the vision, that's the plan. Now you have to finance, to make real this attractivity, not only with words. That's why the president of the European Commission announced a plan with 500 million euro to make real this possibility to attract researchers in health, science, in space research, for example, in algorithm, of course, to come in Europe. But the reality is more difficult, because obviously the salary, for example, in the US are not the same in Europe. So Emmanuel Macron proposed more things to attract, for example, for family to see their house less expensive than it could be, etc. That's why I said that's the vision of attractivity, but the reality is much more difficult. In France, for example, France could be one hub. That's the desire of Emmanuel Macron. But today, the French state has to make cuts in the budget. And obviously, research has been suffering those cuts, 1.5 billion euro cuts for the research. Some spends have been cancelled in 2024, 2025. There are 1.6 billion programs cancelled. So the image is very nice. The strategy is to make stronger Europe in those sectors of activity to reduce the gap on research between the US, between China, in this new world who is emerging. But definitely the reality is harder, and so states and Europe has to prepare a strong financial strategy, technical strategy to make real this desire of attractivity in all Europe. Europe, there are 27 countries. We know all that.
Absolutely.
But with many different and many political challenges.
I would also add to that, apart from what you've just mentioned about those financial cuts, I would also add the sentiments among the domestic scientific milieu, because Emmanuel Macron announced a similar plan last month, Choose France for Science, but the initiative was met with criticism from French researchers who have been fighting for their universities to provide higher salaries and better working conditions to compete with their American counterparts. So why should the plan for European scale be met with different reactions this time?
Yes, you're absolutely right. Union of researchers are protesting, saying that they, of course, Europe and France are land to make joined by researchers in the world, coming from the world, but economic reality can't be the basis of a new gap between the researcher. So definitely unions of researchers are not so happy with those announced, because, as I said, you have the vision, you have the objective, but the reality is there. And don't forget that Europe is also a land of research, the space, for example, with the Guyane, but also algorithm in health sector. In many sectors, we have very good researchers, very good scientists, and obviously Europe can be joined by more, but it can't be done with the feeling that the researcher in the countries of Europe, in Europe, would be victims of those new researchers. So we have to make care to not making emerging a gap between the objective, make Europe a hub, make Europe stronger in science, in technology, building the future, and the reality was much more harder.
All right, let me now just turn to the bilateral relations between France and Germany. As we know, yesterday the German coalition has been officially signed. The agreement was signed, and today the new Chancellor Friedrich Merz will be sworn in. So he will pay his first inaugural visit to Paris as Chancellor. What are the prospects for the restart of this Franco-German engine for Europe, and what have been the main obstacles for this cooperation?
Yes, first of all, in France, we know Friedrich Merz since many times. Friedrich Merz was 10 years ago, leader inside the CDU. At the time of Angela Merkel. So we, in some political parties, in some territories, we know Friedrich Merz, and Friedrich Merz knows France first. Secondly, the first visit of the German Chancellor in France is obviously a symbol. Is a symbol 2 days before the commemoration of the victory of 1945, a symbol because it's showing the links, the friendship between France and Germany with common objectives to make stronger Europe. So Germany and France in this context is very important to show the links, the friendship, and the desire to work together. In this context, why? Because Emmanuel Macron, making this speech yesterday and today receiving the German Chancellor in Paris, knows very well, as Friedrich Merz, obviously, that Europe is coming at a point of division and perhaps of fracture. Let's see the last results of the presidential election in Romania. The AfD in Germany grew up, etc. And the Europeans have one priority today, obviously the job, but also the security and the identity of Europe. So in a world who is becoming a new period, perhaps of fragmentation. So inside Europe, it is very, very important for Emmanuel Macron, who wants to be the leader of the liberal vision of moderated and also ambitious common vision, to show this friendship between two countries who, with obviously the 25 countries more, and obviously with power countries so important as Poland, to show that they are together and they want to reinforce Europe and to make a new dynamic as a response of the more patriot populist votes.
Exactly. The vision is there. Both are very ambitious, two very ambitious leaders, Friedrich Merz and Emmanuel Macron. We will see how this cooperation will go and unfold. Speaking about bilateral relations with Poland, May 9th will see also an assignment of an agreement, bilateral treaty on defense between France and Poland in Nantes. So we will be looking forward to the comments as well here. Thank you so much. Pascal Drouhaud, associate researcher at Institut Choiseul, has joined us this morning. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World Talks here, but please stay tuned to TVP World for more continuous update.